Okay, welcome to it's been a while, a shop talk. I've got Mr. Don Gray up in Fort Saskatchewan with Edmonton Eviction Services. Thanks for tuning in, Don. We've been having some technical issues, so first, some people can help confirm. Can you guys hear Don? Don, you guys say something.
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yeah, I've got a bit of an echo going on right now. Oh.
So that could be the phone, because I'm hearing you through the computer now.
Okay, you gotta turn off your computer there. Okay. Let's see, Don, could you talk now? If someone can hear Don, you guys confirm that you guys can hear Don coming in, that'd be great.
Hello, good day, good evening. What a wonderful day to be alive.
Yeah. Just gonna make sure I boost you a bit as well. I'm trying to do something with the soundboard, but let's kind of dive into it. There's a lot to unpack. I know, Don, this was your idea to kind of get into what's going on right now with at the almost every you can hear him. Amazing. Okay, good. Don, you're coming through on your cell phone, so that's what we'll use. So make sure you've got that nice and close. Yeah, here we are, mid-April. We've just got a federal budget announcement, and the number one item is housing, which really shouldn't be any surprise considering any of us that's been in the industry long enough. Housing's been a challenging for, honestly, I'll go back as long as a decade at least. So that's front and center. We've got in Calgary here coming up here next week, another debate on the Affordable Housing Task Force recommendations, specifically the blanketed rezoning to increase densification in the city here of Calgary. We've got the provincial government putting up some roadblocks on the and what's the right word for this, Don? When you want the federal government to operate within their jurisdictions, stay within their jurisdictional boundaries, we've got that going on. And just a lot of interesting things. And I did grab some things off the Facebook group too I wanted to chat about. And then we've got Renters Bill of Rights, which was announced last week. And I've been quiet on this. I've been trying to think how I wanted to approach the situation and discuss it and try to stay not political or stay nonpartisan and just kind of focus more on the policy effect of it. So Don, you brought this up. What are your thoughts right now? What do you think of all the stuff we're making on with especially with this budget and the announcements from the feds through all these different housing initiatives?
Well, if they work, that's fine. What I've seen over my short time on Earth here is that lots of these promises are made and then they're never fulfilled. And that's my worry with this too. I mean, it all sounds good and maybe some big numbers, or seems like big numbers, but when you get right down to the boots on the ground, it doesn't mean near as much as what it sounds like. As far as the Bill of Rights for renters go, I'm not sure, at least in Alberta, if they could improve on the rights of the renters, because the renters have the same rights as the landlord. And so, at first flush on that, it makes me wonder if we got, you want to make it lopsided so that the renters are running the show, have the tail wagging the dog type of thing.
Yeah.
So I was reading some articles too. I got a few minutes in today. I was reading a couple articles and I'm just trying to find it again. From different perspectives, and certainly some of the things they're looking at is longer amortization on your mortgage and
which I think is good. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And also to make it easier to qualify. They talked about program where we could go with single key, about reporting to rent payments to the Equifax and TransUnion.
Yep.
And I mean that's great. I think anytime that you can make things easier for other people, that's what we should do. And so those things are good. So I mean, they're talking about the Bill of Rights, but I haven't seen anything yet, and there may be something I've missed of exactly what that means.
Yeah, it's so ambiguous right now. We're going off, CBC, CTV, whatever, all the major news outlets. We're going off 5 minutes of talking points in an interview, right? There's nothing that's been put in writing yet, really, to give us any kind of contextual.
Well, the other thing is, rentals is a provincial item. It's not a federal. Yeah,
100%. I know. That's what makes this so interesting. We're and man, I'm trying to. I had this good chat the other day where, there's very clear boundaries and responsibilities that fall in all three levels of government, from the federal to the provincial to the municipalities, and it's confederation. That's the word I'm looking for. We're in a confederation here. You can't. And this is I think this is in our Charter of Rights and how this stuff's so laid. Like they can't be changing these lanes. So that right there is, if I've did my math and I got my geology, grade 9 geology correct for Canadian studies here, 10 provinces and 3 territories. So there's 13 RTAs, Residential Tenancy Acts, and they're all different. And in some cases, they're like, not only they're different, but they're like completely in contradiction of each other. Great example, a fixed term lease in Alberta is a fixed term. When it is done, both parties have known they've signed into a term lease. That's it. That is the end. They have to move out, and vice versa. In BC, Ontario, the word fixed term is in the legislation, but it doesn't mean fixed term. That doesn't exist, just practically speaking. So I mean, right then and there, it's basically a more of a vote getting kind of initiative. I see. Hey, bud, I'm on a live stream. Go ask mom. Sorry. You need to go upstairs and talk to mom. I can. Apologies. Got the 4-year-old asked me for some help on his Nintendo Switch, but we'll continue on. But I think what's kind of interesting here, I come from a position of, and I'm going to again really focus on the policy and the effects that we're going to see from the different proposed legislation policies. But I come from a position of less red tape. Let the citizen provide the services, and instead of the government trying to do that for us. I've always leaned that way. So when let's dive into that first one where we're talking about rental transparency and the disclosure of previous and past rents to new tenants applying on a property. From a free market perspective, that would completely make sense. I would totally agree with that. I think I'm fine with it. I think the challenge, though, I do see some people bringing it up, is I think it's going to discourage, unfortunately, landlords and homeowners who have gotten really good relationship with tenants and have given them financial breaks for one reason or another. If it's going to become a sticking point and get confrontational when the next tenant comes along, which basically that would be your red flag right there, and end that conversation and move on to the next candidate. But it's going to create a thing where, they're going to say, oh, hey, I can see your previous renter only paid, let's just throw $1,500, and now you're asking $1,900. I want to pay the $1,500. And you know what? Unbeknownst to that tenant, there's so many moving parts behind the scenes. We could have a medical emergency or a medical condition or health bills come up that has changed the homeowner's financial position where now they need additional money. Maybe they're helping out a family member who's in a tough. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. It's really their own prerogative. But so many things can happen where all of a sudden now that $400 a month might be what they need, and but then you've got this expectation of a tenant coming in and saying, "Well, you used to charge this. Why can't I get this?" Well, it could be the other thing too is maybe they had a great, fantastic tenant and they deserved and earned that discount just through building and maintaining a great relationship. So where is the expectation that you should have that same rent going forward? It doesn't really work that way. Now, and so I've been trying. I don't quite got this figured out, but there's a difference from buying a house and having transparency on the MLS. And we're only just getting there right now too. Only in the last 2 to 3 years, there's Honest Door, which is a prop tech startup company out of Edmonton that gives you recent MLS data based on the size of your house, the lot sizing, and recent comps in your area. It doesn't look at the interior of the space, but at least it gives you a good ballpark of what your house might be worth. I
Yeah.
rambled there, Don. Anything you're thinking on there?
Yeah. Well, the one thing for me is that the market controls the prices. If you're asking way too much, nobody's going to come to your door. If you're in market and you can show that you're a good unit and you deserve the higher market price, then you should be getting it. I mean, that's the premise behind the free market.
Yeah.
If you got a crappy place and people aren't going to pay top market price, they're going to ask for lower market price, and that's fair.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, I mean, that's really what comes down to the crutch of it. So I mean, yeah, you know what? It gives a little bit more. I guess they're trying to make an even playing field. And
Mm-hmm.
oh, I know I was going to go with this. The one thing that I think it's often missed, especially now we're kind of in one of these hot markets again. The last time we had a hot market really of this kind of magnitude would have been the early to mid 2000s. That would have been, 04, 05, 06. We saw a very similar environment where it was really expensive. Prices are going up. Like, yeah, the pricing right now on buying properties, it's crazy. There's multiple bids going on. I've got a bunch of alerts through my realtor, and I'm seeing them go up. Day or two later, they come down, or not even. Sometimes it's like they go up, they go down, and it's like they're asking 500, it went for 580. They're asking 599, it's going for 630. Like it's in a hot market right now, and but where I was trying to go with this is when we get in these hot markets, they're typically not long duration, they're short lived, and they're aggressive, which is what we're in right now. The pricing is really crazy. But then when we get into the dips always tend to be a lot more prolonged and not as severe, usually not as severe in terms of the decrease in pricing or like when the market's correcting, but they take much longer when they're more balanced or in the tenant's favor than not. So I think in a ways that's just an opinion. I'll leave it at that.
Well, I remember the good old days in there. I had one time a house I was showing, and the people were looking at. I had like 5 people coming,
Mhm.
and I come outside, and the other 4 people were there, and 2 of them said whatever the rent was, $1,000 was say. The one guy says, "You're asking 1,000, I'll give you 1,100." Another guy says, "I'll give you 1,200." They haven't even looked at the place yet. And because there was no place to go, and so I had a bidding war in the backyard by the back door of this house. The people, only one person seen it out of the group, and my answer to it was, you guys all fill out an application form here, and if you want to pay more, you mark on top what you're willing to pay, and but it'll be on best tenant.
Yeah.
So they all went away mad, but sorry.
Yeah, I've not experienced that. Yeah, it's just it's a lot going on right now. So oh good. And by the way, tune in, say hi, let us know where you're watching from, ask questions. This is really, I think this shop talk, because we're kind of just diving into a lot of, I would say, politically charged, and a lot of policies, and really a lot of new announcements that the government is trying to do, at least at the federal level and at the local level, and really at all levels of government, because of just the dire situation that our housing situation is across the country. Ask some questions here.
I'm just reading an article here, the one I was talking about earlier, and they started the part of the announcement was that the limit for using your RSP is up now from 25 to 60,000. If I read that right.
Yeah.
Great period that you're not required to repay your RSP. They made it 3 years longer. I don't know what that means now. 3 years mortgage advertising, yeah, and then. And for students, renters, workers with disabilities, they're going to extend for an additional year the increase in full-time Canada student grants from $3,000 to $4,200 per year. So interest-free Canada student loans from $210 to $300 per week. So that is a help for them.
Yeah.
Allow renters choose to report their rent payment history to credit bureaus. So we talked about that. That's a great thing. Add up to an additional $821 every year to workers with disabilities, to the Canada Workers Disability Supplement.
Yeah.
So that's going to be it'll help them. Lowering everyday costs. I got a kick out of this one here. Allow more flexibility to renew or switch between home internet, home phone, and cell phone services. Prohibited by the CRTC from charging consumers extra fees to switch carriers. I don't know if that's usually people they're advertising they'll charge less. Required to help consumers identify plans which include lower cost plans and
there's lots for sure, and like, and Don, I've grabbed some stuff. So I've got the Prime Minister's I guess news press release website here. So there's 15 million in a tenant protection fund, which I think is fine. I think 15 million though across the whole country, for because these budgets are every 5 years, right?
You say again?
So these budgets are every 5 years. Like, I think
no, every year they put down a new budget, but
yeah. I guess it depends how long they say the money is going to be spread out for. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. So 15 million across the whole country. And a lot of people mentioned this. This was discussed in detail on the group. It's a drop in the bucket, which I have to agree with that. They're talking about a new Bill of Rights. This would require, to clear a close history of apartment pricing. You know what? Like, again, I don't know where I land on this. Like, I'm really kind of, I guess if I got to be true to myself, I'm a free market person. Sure, fair enough. You know what? Share the information. At the end of the day, it's just going to put a little bit more pressure on the landlord to stick it to the guns and run it like a business. And this is just a negotiation, and you're going to say, this is what you get, to take it or leave it. I think it's going to unfortunately hurt a lot of relationships where landlords and tenants have great relationships, and now, because this is something that's coming, they're probably not going to have as much discounts available.
Certainly, I mean, there's lots of landlords that don't increase the rent for good tenants, and so they may be at this point they're charging $1,100 for a main floor 3-bedroom, and the market is 1,500. So if somebody comes along and says, "Oh, you only charged them 1,100 before," but the market's 1,500 now, and really my expenses have gone up. So to justify what it costs you to build something isn't what's the word I'm looking for? You don't go to the store and ask for what's the process of making that quart of milk. They could save money, or it was that much a year ago, and now you're charging extra. I only want to pay what it was a year ago. You don't do that, and I don't see why we'd be any different.
Yeah. Well, and going here, so they throw in some other. I think these are really just kind of keywords. We'll also crack down on rental evictions. Well, this is like, and this is the analogy I think of this is, rental evictions is a symptom or a side effect of poor legislation creating the need for rent evictions. If you don't, and really, like, legislation, when it works well, it needs to balance all stakeholders in a fair manner. And when you've got the legislation that picks and supports only one side at the cost to the negative effect of the other side. So in this case, we're talking landlords and tenants, and we're talking, say, Ontario is the prime example here where this is quite prevalent. And you take the ability to end tenancies and to raise rents to stay with market pricing. Well, then you get things like rent evictions, and there's other things going on too. So now they're going to crack down on rent evictions. It's like putting it's like putting a Band-Aid on a hole in a bucket, and the bucket's still leaking in other areas. Like it's not getting at the root cause at all. And then the nationwide standard lease agreement. I mean, that sounds great, but we've got 13 RTAs, Residential Tenancy Acts, across the country, pieces of legislation that are all different. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, completely different, that they actually in direct confrontation of each other, or they're a direct conflict. So, like, and I feel we're quite privileged here in Alberta to have the ability to draft a custom lease, long as you meet the specific requirements in the RTA. And one of them is you've got to have a statement saying, if there is a conflict that arises between the RTA and this lease, the RTA shall prevail. I'm paraphrasing. I'm probably not getting that right, but we have that flexibility, right? So I mean, like, this is, oh man, it just sets a lot of false hopes and expectations, unfortunately, I think. But yeah, I know. Dive into that, Don, and I'm going to pull up some of the things I think are really cool that they're doing out of this new federal budget.
Okay. I was going to say, to give landlords or renters more agency. Well, they got equal agency, at least in Alberta. They got equal agency to the landlord. So why would we want to pile the advantages on one side and take away the balance?
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? It's got to be balanced. And so, like, I mean, that's what I really like about the free market is one, if you don't like the pricing, go find another. You can go and select another property to rent from. Well, and then, obviously right now we're low vacancy. We're probably less than 1 or 2% right now, so that's also very challenging. But this is just really part and part of the cycle. The amount, I think there's a stat that just got released either by the ATP AL, their economic outlook, or it might have been one of the big banks. But our housing starts are just going through the roof right now. We're screaming for people to come to Alberta to work, because we need people in every trade and occupation right now. This is that correction mechanism that the free market kind of taking action right now. So yeah, there's always going to be an uncomfortable transition period, and it goes both ways. While the market tries to correct itself, and we're in that right now. But what's going to happen? There's going to be an explosion of a bunch of new units on this market here in the next couple of years, and 5 years or whatever it takes here and we're going to be in a position where at some point there's going to be an industry slowdown. And if people remember back to 2015 and around that time, there were rents dropping 20 to 25% in the big cities and up to a third or more in some of the smaller economic centers throughout Alberta and the smaller cities. And I'm talking like the Fort Macs, Red Deers, the Lethbridges, and that tenants are in the driver's seat. They were getting free TVs, free internet, 3 months of rent. There was a ton of things to make it work. So, uh, have you ever heard that happen in any of the other provinces that have some sort of rent control? And you don't see that, unfortunately.
Uh,
Yeah.
Rent control. When Trudeau Senior brought in rent control during his tenure, all he did was increase rents dramatically. Before we were getting, I was a renter at that point, and we were getting increases of, say $10 a month once a year, and then he had maximum 3% 4 times a year. So we were getting a $10 raise 4 times a year.
Yeah, yeah, and
that's what give for you.
yeah, and and thanks Tim for the comment. He's chiming in. They're trying to apply a blanket solution across the country, which doesn't work because each province or territory has different situations. Even within them, there are differences between the municipalities. 100%. Yeah, someone. I think it was a mortgage broker once gave me this analogy. When they're talking about using the interest rate as a monetary tool to keep inflation down, it's kind of like giving the body penicillin or some sort of antibiotic. The arm might be okay or the heart might be okay, and that could be Alberta. But the part of the body that's got the infection, where it's like the Toronto or Ontario or Vancouver, BC, they need that medication to fight the infection, but the rest of the body gets the medication because just by default the way the tool works. So, but what I've got up on the screen now here, Don, I thought was kind of interesting is they've got a bunch of Canada Post properties that are vacant that they could be unlocked and used for affordable housing. I do think this is money well spent if they can start building some level, increasing the level of affordable housing where we can help people that for various reasons. I mean, society is complex, but we're talking health, and mental needs to monetary needs to really anything across the board. We don't really have anything at the very bottom of the bucket. So having a bit more of that supply would definitely do wonders. And they've got, so in Alberta, for example, we're talking Airdrie, Carstairs, Crossfield, Didsbury. I don't know where this place is. Oh, that's Manitoba. That's why. And then the other two are the other prairies. But I think that would be money well spent to get some of that affordable housing back into to support the very basic lowest income needs. Because to be frank, most of the rental stocks provided by mom and pop landlords, that's you and me, we're in around that 65 to 70% of the market share of all rental stock. And what the private citizen does well is provide the average user or renter a place to live. That's a very apples to apples kind of fit. It's unfortunately the smaller demographics that have very unique needs that don't generally have the solutions out that they need. And I think that's where the government should be stepping in to supply those needs.
I would add, so this is sample Canada Post property. So that's where the post office is.
Correct.
In your town. So most towns, they're downtown. And they're not that big, but I mean, even if you it might not be a fit in the commercial area to have. I mean, in small towns it might be a little easier, but certainly to put up the most, I think you could go 2 levels on most of those properties.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think because the Canada Post is streamlined operations and they've gone to like a big distribution center, so they've got all these smaller post office, right? So
I agree.
Yeah.
If the Canada Post is not using it, then it needs to be put into use. Whether this is the best use or not, I don't know.
No, that's fair. Yeah. There was also I can't remember where I saw it now. They're looking at some land that was used for the military, for the armed forces, that's no longer being used. And Calgary was an example. Down to Curry Barracks, they're going to add in 800 units, and I can't find that now.
Yeah, no, sure. It's a
So
big enough space.
yeah, it is. It's yeah, quite large. But yeah, so you know what? I think there's some cool things they're doing that we definitely need. Um, I was listening. Oh, and so here's another interesting thing that they're talking about, that capital gains change, which is so they've released a budget that's 39.5 billion, almost 40 billion deficit. But then they've made, and I was listening to Trevor too. I mean, he's an economist, and a professor down at the University of Calgary, and I quite enjoy him. I think he's um, very stats driven and pragmatic in how he looks at these policies, and really the imperial kind of evidence, and how it will affect what they're trying to do. And I totally kind of did a pivot here, but taking that capital gains from 50 to 66, so 2/3, um, on anything that's over 250,000. I was, me being, again, less text and all that kind of stuff, it was at the beginning on the headline against it, but listen to how he explained it. What they're trying to do is create a level playing field for all the different ways you can be taxed, whether it's on a T4, like on your income, versus dividends versus capital gains. And so they're trying to get to have and I want to make sure I'm using the correct terminology here. The same effective tax rate is what they're trying to get to. However, what I don't like what they did was, instead of raising the rent here and lowering it elsewhere to kind of keep the overall tax balance, they just raised the rent. Or the taxes with the increase in the capital gains, which is lame. I mean, not that part's not cool. But I think to balance out the tax hit across the different revenue streams, or income streams, I think that's a good move, because now it takes away that favoritism. But really, what he was kind of proposing at the end was, what they should do is lower the income taxes and perhaps raise some sales taxes on the other side, so people can choose where their money is being taxed and how it's being spent, and have more money in the pocket. But I'm rambling now. Don, take over.
Well, I hear you about the taxes. That's always been a bone of contention with me. I know that we have to pay our fair share in order to have good roads locally, and have programs nationally. A dollar each is a large amount of money. I know that, but what I see is that they usually build bureaucracies more so than having it on the ground level.
They're just not efficient, right?
Yeah, it's not efficient. I see that also in the healthcare. They get a bunch of money, and then all of a sudden there's more middle managers, and not more nurses and stuff like that. So it's a bone of contention. It's a necessary evil, I think, is how I look at it. Certainly the taxes of this world. I think we're at what are we? I looked at it just a little ago. What we were. I mean, we're still pretty good compared to many other countries, but that doesn't mean that it's good. It just means that they haven't found all the ways to tax us yet.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
And
Let's go put this one here. I'm just thinking.
for the night, one of my ones for tonight.
What's that? Sorry?
I said that's one of my rants for tonight.
Oh, yeah. So I was debating if I should share this or not. I got an email today from just someone an acquaintance, saying they wanted me to sign this petition to say no to blanket rezoning here in Calgary. And this has been a really interesting topic to see debated in the Facebook group in the community, because I think even within our own community of homeowners, and in this case landlords with more than one property, a lot of people are opposed to it. I'm just anecdotally, or just from my observations, it sounds like I'm in the minority side that actually support it. Um, but and then so now we've got our provincial government throwing up legislation to prevent the federal government from providing money to the cities. And I've been trying to find some information before the show to kind of dig into some of the details. So I have nothing, but unfortunately, I got no. Maybe Don, you can help clarify this, or for anyone that's watching, I'd love to jump in the comment. I heard there. I mean, I always assume there's some level of strings attached to when the feds give you money and how they want you to spend it and use it. Um, I was trying to understand what that means for the rezoning and the money they were given to the city of Calgary and Edmonton and so on, and whether they had some other agendas like where the properties had to be built with no natural gas, and trying to phase out something like that. Again, I have no idea. That's a complete parts hearsay, but I'd love to find the details of what the strings were attached for that money coming from the feds. So then I'm in a weird. This has been like, usually I'm pretty good at picking and choosing what type of legislation I support or don't support, but that's when it was challenging because I do want the divisions between the different levels of governments to stay in their lanes. And so, the Alberta government, by adding that legislation that to keep the feds out of our pocket, I see as a good thing. But I guess the entrepreneurial side, being in the real estate business, there's a direct benefit to some of that money coming into Calgary, and then them trying to support the rezoning. So I don't know. I mean, that's a lot of personal say as well, because that's people choose why they've decided to live in a certain community because they bought there for various reasons. But yeah, I gotta stop ranting. Then, what do you think, Don, on that play with what's going on in politics right now?
Well, it's jurisdictional in the fighting. So basically, we have whatever we're looking after, and on the municipal side, and then we're looking for funding just like anybody else. And the feds come along and say they want to, they'll give you some yada yada. But the provincial is actually the pocket we should be going to, and then it screws up what they're doing. So
yeah, it's messy.
It's all a part about getting votes.
Yeah,
I think bottom line and all of this stuff is getting votes. So we got legislation that it's going to do me good, so I'm going to vote for you. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
Well, yeah. That's so. I don't know. I think at the end of the day, I'd rather, because we voted provincially for a certain type of government. I'd rather them generally be in that driving seat and then see how things go from there. I do think, though, honestly, and so for people that are opposed to the blanket rezoning, I think it's a good thing. And hear me out. In Edmonton in 2008, they came out with blanketed zoning for legalized secondary suites. And I remember there was a big uproar at the same time. This was generally all the same arguments or reasons being brought up in opposing this blanket rezoning being brought up then. Now, granted, that went from a density factor of 1 to 2, so it's kind of like a single step. And in certain cases, we're going from a density factor of now a single family up to a possible of 8 units, which is obviously, that's a huge step. But I would also then argue is that this isn't going to fall, even though it is technically blanketed across the whole city. The actual applicable properties or lots that will qualify for this type of build is far less than 100%. I know my guess is it above majority, over 60%, 50 or 40? I think it's probably in around there somewhere. Let's call it a majority. Let's call it 60%, because you got to have a certain lot size to get that up to that 8 unit build. There's setbacks and all these other requirements that already automatically eliminate a lot of properties. And then there's an economic condition as well. Someone's like, oh, I don't want this being built in, I don't know, pick your favorite ritzy community here in Calgary, Lower Mount Royal, or I've talked at length this and I can't think of any good examples, but a bunch of the communities in and around the Beltline where they're $1 million properties and up. Well, an investor is not going to go in there to build one of these aplexes in a high-end community because they'll never make any money for the purchase on the land. So that eliminates all those communities. So really, I see these properties coming in where we really need them. And I don't think they're going to overly change the complexity of or the complexion and the feel of the community. If anything, I think it'll make it better because then you've got more of a diverse crowd living in the community, and we're not filtering the ability to live in our city based on a financial condition. And I think that's really important, especially for the future of this city when you want a good young working force that can come and work here and build amazing businesses, create incomes that are taxable that we need then to keep the city going as we all get older.
I hear you, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's do what we're good at here. I did save up some examples, Don, of some landlords with some really interesting, challenging situations that we could kind of help and share with.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I said I'll do my best. What you got there?
Yeah. So one's from Michael here. I'm gonna paraphrase it. I can put up on the screen here, but basically he's got a suite property. He's helped out a friend who's moved in the top suite, and you're gonna probably understand where this is going. His friend is, well, he generally pays rent on time. He's helped them out, but he isn't the cleanest. Doesn't always shovel the front lawn or the sidewalks, all that kind of stuff. He's got a new Ukrainian family that came in uh, this year in February, moved into the basement. They're amazing. They do all the stuff. They clean. They fix stuff. They shovel. They make it easy. And his friend's been complaining about the noise from the family downstairs, and he had recently renovated this unit before these two tenants started with putting rock solid insulation. So basically, he's put a good effort into soundproof between the basement suite and the main unit. Um, so now he's in kind of a particular situation, and I think the last part too is the tenants downstairs are now pregnant, and the upstairs tenant just found out. They're all, the leases are up for renewal at the end of August. So he's basically like, what should he do here? And I know we've talked about this before, Don. The quickest way to end a friendship is to um, become a roommate, move in with your best friend. And I think unfortunately, he's helped the buddy out, but he's gonna have to make a tough decision here.
Yes, that's every business. You don't become friends or have your friends work for you in a business because you might need to fire them, and that makes it tough on you. So he's going to have to pick the one that is causing him the most grief to not renew, and then renew with the one that's doing the best, paying their rent on time and stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, if they're both problem tenants, I wouldn't renew with either one. It's a tough spot, and it's where you got to run your business with your head, not your heart.
Yeah, and I that was exactly it. And I'm pretty sure, and I've spoken with Michael in the past. I think he's pretty astute and all that. And I think he already knows the writing on the wall, but he's, having that tough conversation with your friend. Hopefully you don't lose that friendship, but it sounds like that's probably the time. Hey, but I've helped you as much as I can. I think it's time to, part ways and take the next step here, and hopefully, still be friends or wordsmith it a bit nicer. But I think the other thing too is setting expectations of, by the way, you've moved into a suited house. It was a pre-existing single family house that's been converted into a legal suite. There's always going to be sound transfer, whether it's coming through the duct work or whatever it might be. Like that, you have to have the expectation getting in. And if he was helping his buddy out, his buddy should be able to understand that too.
Yeah, well, if he wants to get creative and help his buddy continue and maybe save the relationship a bit, maybe go out and see if you can find some place that might suit him, closer to his price range, and say, hey man, I can't renew with you, but there's some spaces here that I picked out. If you want to go take a look at them, and I'll make sure that if you leave the place reasonably clean, I'll I'll make sure to give you your security deposit back. So if you got one, sometimes you let your friends in without that. So anyway, that'd be a way of helping and kind of, the guy's gonna be mad anyway, but it lessens the blow a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, and Don, I forgot to ask at the beginning of the show here. What is the current wait time right now from the day you file to when you get your hearing date?
12 days, 12 to 16.
12 to 16 days. That is amazing. That is the Alberta advantage right there. I love it.
Amen.
Amen. Yeah. Actually, Tim just commented on this, and I totally agree with you, Tim. And I'm glad you threw this out here because don't know if I clearly articulated that. Back in our the conversation on the provincial government preventing the transfer of the money, it's not necessarily preventing the transfer of the money. They're just mainly looking to see what the money is, what the requirements are, and how basically have some oversight to make sure the funding is being distributed in a fair manner across the province. Absolutely right. And I agree with that. I think there should be some oversight at a provincial level, because we've chosen to operate in a different manner than some of the other provinces, and so don't want to have policy dictated from a different party with a different agenda at a different level. So, so I mean, they're not opposed to the money. Just make sure it makes sense for our needs.
But the government is sophisticated enough to know that if there's areas that their popularity is lower in, that they could put some money into that area, and that they would get more votes. So I think that's probably or some of what the premise of what they're doing is, and actually that's a very correct statement in that the province should be saying, hey, look, there's equal need over here, and so that all that money shouldn't go there. Maybe we should have half of it over here, or whatever.
Exactly. Following up on Michael's predicament with his friend and the new family in the basement. Here's the answer from the community. I got 17 votes, so this was definitely the best answer. So I want to share this one, and this was from Kaylee that wrote this one. Let's see if I got this right. I'd offer the upstairs tenant to get up now and let them know that the noise can be frustrating. So she's acknowledging their needs, but they've been good tenants, and you certainly can't force them out before August. I'm guessing the upstairs will move. If not, then just don't renew the upstairs. The fact that the upstairs is complaining about the noise is enough as a red flag not to continue. And I
agree.
100% agree there. I mean, again, he's helping his friend, his buddy, which I think part of that too is when you've got a relationship on a friend level that you've brought it into business to help them out because you can, give them cheaper rent or something like that. The problem where these things always go awry is each party expects a lot more of each other because they have a good relationship. And there's that overlap, which is that kind of that confrontation. And this is where, if you're going to go into business with someone, and we've talked about this too, Don, about how important it is to document and basically have a really good lease that covers all the worst case problems. So everyone's clear how to handle those challenges if you do choose to help out a family or a family member or a good friend that needs a place to stay.
Well, just plain good business.
Yes. Yes. Touche. Absolutely. Okay. Let's take on the next one here. This was this was a really interesting conversation. This is all about vent cleaning. And I went through and read it. This got posted yesterday by, I'm not going to say her name correctly. Glenleys, Glenys. Anyways, so she's got a bungalow with a legal basement suite. My question is, how often do other landlords get their ducts cleaned? My tenant has COPD. I looked that up. It's pulmonary. They have a breathing challenge with dust. That chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Anyways, and is insisting that it should be done. They've been my tenants for 2 years, and so far they've been great, although not happy with my recent rent increase. Everyone's in that tough position right now. It's understandable. Just wonder how adequate and often this is. So and so the majority of the comments here, I think we got 26 comments, are all saying every 2 years, every 2 to 3 years, you should be doing it, cleaning, getting your vents cleaned. And I used to be that way until I talked to the person my mom used. And on the funny side note, they're called Iron Maid, and it's the Iron Maiden. But anyways, plain words. And the guy turned down my business, and I had so much respect for him. He's on my short list when I do need to get my vents clean. But he's like, um, if your dryer's not having, oh, I was on the dryer vent, but he's like, yeah, it basically said if you keep doing your furnace filters and all these things, you don't really need your vents cleaned unless either you've got a ton of animals in the house, a bunch of fur, or you've done a recent drywall and a bunch of construction work in the house where the vents have fulled. Then you definitely should have them clean. But just regular living, people are talking about somewhere between 5, 7, even 10, on as far as 10 years, but it's in that 5 to 7 year range. It seems was actually more practical. And just from my personal experience growing up, I'm definitely know we did not clean our vents every 2 years, and I don't ever remember having any problems. And again, as long as you get those, I think the big thing is the furnace filters. That really is the major air filter on the air quality aspect.
Yeah, in our house, I changed them monthly over the winter and twice over the summer, and never had any problems.
Yeah, yeah, I do them every 2 to 3 months. I get a little reminder on the thermostat. It tells me to do it, but also you can go down and put a brand new one beside the one there. And if it's only a few shades different, you're probably okay for a little bit longer. Or if you put in it's like black and white, definitely time to change the furnace filter. I know the only thing, especially over the last couple of years, how much smoke we've had in the summers from all the forest fires, is smoke will definitely fill up your furnace vents filters a lot quicker. So that's something to be on top of and check them a little bit more.
Sticky and stuff. I bought those ones you fit. You cut down the size and they're forever. You pull them out. I have 2. I pull out and put the new one in and take it and clean it with the garden hose or the bathtub in the wintertime and let it dry and it's good again. So
oh really?
Yeah, I've had them for years now. And the ones that's supposed to take out. It's got extra things in there to take out pollutants or
sure the pollens or whatever. Yeah, they have like a Marv Radiant too. And I've seen a few of our trades landlords speak up on this, and I appreciate that. Is the way furnaces were meant to operate, and some of these newer filters that they're putting up have way more filtration than the furnaces were designed for. And he gave the analogy of it's kind of like trying to drink a Slurpee with a coffee straw. Little coffee black straws back. I guess now I'm probably dating myself because we got no more plastic anything. But anyways, those little black coffee straws that were meant for stirring in coffee, they're super small. You can't even drink a Slurpee through it. And he's like, that's kind of like what your furnace is trying to breathe or push air through when it's not, when it's probably more meant for like the analog of like a Slurpee straw where it's big and you can put lots of throughput. So you got to be careful not to get a high thick filter to cut all that stuff out, because then now you're stressing the blower motor on your furnace. So there's a bit of a balancing act. So I've tried to pick mine in the middle to the lower side, enough to get the dust out anyways.
And you can get an electric one that costs you a little bit for electricity, but they last forever too, and they take the vast majority of the dust up, burn it right out.
Yeah, that's cool. I was actually at the Habitat for Humanity Reman store here in Calgary, which they have a bunch of like you can take. By the way, if you're looking for a cheap renovation and again trying to do your property well, these are great places to check out where you can get good quality supplies that have come from leftovers from other construction site, where you don't need to have the most perfect looking color matching thing, but for a rental property, you just need good quality that will last. And one of the things I saw, Don, was there's these inserts you could put into some furnaces where if they have like a 2 or 3 inch, those really thick paper furnace filters, you could put these inserts, like they're just little tray slides on the top and the bottom. So you can drop down and use just the really thin, the thinnest version of the 1 inch filters. So I thought that was a smart way to save money. But all my furnace filters are just the 1 inch ones.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah. But I haven't tried those electric ones. I'll have to look into that. But yeah.
Yeah. A friend of mine's got that. He's an electrician, mind you, but he got that, and he just loves it. You can hear when the dirt goes through it, the little zips and zaps, and it's like it's killing mosquitoes or something.
Oh,
And,
really? Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of it. I don't know if someone wants to ask any other questions, if you got any challenges. You've got an eviction expert right now, Don here. Don, how many cases do you do in a week here, just to give someone context? I know you're pretty busy on the phone.
Yeah. Right now we're doing about 50 cases a month, so that's about 12 or so a week on average. Some weeks it feels like you're under a mountain, and other weeks not quite as bad. But yeah, it's good business wise. And I don't know. People ask me, is that an increase because of the economy, or and I can't answer that because I advertise a lot, and so I'm getting new clients all the time, and so my popularity is getting known better. Things like this that help spread the name. So does it increase because I'm more out there, or is it increase because there's more bad tenants? But I can't answer that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, Don. I think there's a little bit more to it. I think we've our TRS is now a little bit more well known. A lot more information's on the internet now. I know we've talked about this too, and we've seen the caseload at RTS pick up every year. It's been steadily growing. If someone's curious to take a look, if you Google RTRS annual report, actually, because I'm that cool, I already did it. And we can just see the caseload grow every year. And I think that's a good thing. I think basically what that tells us is it just tells us that the service is working. More people are willing to access mediation, and it's accessible, which is what we want. And I think that's probably why I'm so proud to be a homeowner and a rental house provider in the province of Alberta. Is they've been very cognizant of keeping that timely access to litigation. As you just mentioned, Don, you said 12 to 16 days. That's just a little over 2 weeks. That's crazy. Anyone in this business should have enough reserve fund, ideally, when you get into it, to have 2 to 3 months of coverage. So that would put us then at we have a phone call here. Okay, there you go. That puts us at like you should. There'd be no reason why you're going months on end without getting rent paid in this province if you're doing your job properly. Anyways, and I get it happens, but
the trick is to not wait and give them more chances. This can be used as a tool to make tenants toe the line a little quicker. Don't necessarily want to evict them, but if you can get a conditional order for several months where they're able to change their lifestyle or change whatever they have to in order to make sure the payments are there in time, because they're going to be evicted very quickly if they don't, and that has helped a lot of tenants become mediocre tenants become very good tenants, and they realize what they're responsible for, and it's a very small investment to get that. It costs more money to get a new tenant than it is to keep the old one in most cases. So it's if you spend a little bit to keep that tenant performing correctly, then it's money well spent.
Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, and I just threw up the chart on the screen here. So this last fiscal year, which ends in April, so actually we should be getting a brand new annual report any time here. But you can just see the steady growth of cases being filed across the province from the inception back in 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
I
was probably within the first 100 or so applicants. So
when you first filed for your first RTS case,
I was doing them at the King's Bench before, and it was like, in some cases, it was like 3 months to get somebody out. And when they brought this there, I was in like a dirty old shirt. I had to try it. So
Yeah.
And it worked. And from their old office up on the 17th floor, their TD building, and then downstairs to the main floor, and now we're on 108th Street. I mean, it's growing, and and they got a lot of good people working for them.
They do. They really do. The executive director for RTRS, her name is Patricia Toplin. I think she's done an absolute wonderful job. I think she's set really the bar across our whole country for what there's a board in every province, or this informal tribunal. It's LTB, Landlord Tenant Board in Ontario, Office of the Rental Board. They have different names across each of the provinces, but I think we are really the gold standard into how it should be balanced and operated, and it gives such timely access to legislation. And I think one of the things they did well is they used phone calls or conference calls as the medium, as opposed to going to a video call, which just makes it a lot more accessible for people who perhaps don't have a computer or a camera, or aren't really technology savvy to hop onto a video call. Everyone knows how to use a phone, and I think it's been a great medium. And really, she was telling me that they were in the progress of bringing these systems in prior to COVID. COVID just kind of accelerated a bit, but it was already a ball that was moving, and it just showed that they executed it well.
Yeah, and back then when they brought it in so that they could bring in the cases from afar, Fort McMurray or Slave Lake or Grand Prairie or wherever, and that allowed easier access. And I did a lot of those cases when they first started expanding that out. And I really enjoyed that. It really helped.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if most people know this. This is probably worth mentioning as we wrap up the show. How much can you go to? For how much in a dollar amount can you go through the RTRS for? I know it's recently changed.
$100,000 August of last year, and it changed to $100,000 maximum, and that's the small claims court across Alberta. All the jurisdictions is $100,000.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so they just essentially doubled it. Really, like I said, last August they went from, you can only claim up to a maximum of 50,000 through RTRS, and now it's 100,000. And I think that should cover, honestly, 99% of all the needs out there for these types of landlord tenant disputes.
Is 78,000 so far. So I'll probably get 100,000 one somewhere down the road.
Oh, your highest is how much? 78,000?
8,000 since last August, yeah.
Oh, well, can you just give me can you give us a little, little entertainment value? What made it 78,000? That's a lot of money.
Yeah, and it was from a group of people who rented a very nice house and pretty much destroyed it. And so it was a damage claim. It was actually over 80,000, and so it was almost 90,000 was what we were put it in at, but it
got reduced. Wow.
Yeah, and then they had revolving tenants coming in, and they give it to some other, or there's a mother involved, and she gave it to her adult daughter, and the adult daughter with her boyfriend came in and made it even worse, and big holes in doors, and then it was I think it was about a 3,500 square foot house.
Just ruined it. Well, maybe one of these, I've been playing around with this idea too, is maybe one of these days we'll do a shop talk, not so much in education, but more of the purely kind of entertainment, just the wildest stories of being in this industry. And I've heard some crazy stuff, and what I could do is scroll through, if I can go back and find some of the wildest posts I've seen. There's been one post I saw, this would have been like, 3 years ago, 2021. This might have been during COVID, I think. And someone found a snake in the curtain of a vacant property when they were getting ready for getting the property cleaned up for the next vacancy, or if they're bringing the new tenants. The previous tenant, I don't know what type of snake it was, gardener snake or something, escaped. No, it was a python or I don't know. I don't know snakes. Large and scary. What's that?
It's a snake.
Yeah, it's a snake, and it was on a patio window, like to go outside, a glass slider, and it had the curtains from top to the bottom, and this snake somehow like curled away up in like the folds of the cloth, and I don't know if it was he or she pulled it out, and the snake jumped on the floor. And they took a picture of it, and they threw it in the Facebook group, and it was like that was one of the wildest things I've ever seen. Like that was just. I don't know what I would do if I was not expecting a snake in my rental property and it jumped out and fell on the floor 3 feet from me. I would probably have like just screamed like a girl and like jumped 10 feet. Oh yeah, no thanks. Like I don't mind it, those animals. I don't mind bugs too. I just don't like being surprised by those type of creatures close to my body. I don't like the surprise feeling. And yeah, no. Okay. Anyways, we're over time here. Thanks for tuning in for another Shop Talk episode, all things landlording. This is really just a panel. We need to get Don. I've been talking. We need to get some more people on joining the conversation. So if you're interested to want to hang out and be as cool as us and talk all things landlording, drop us a line, mention it in the group, and yeah, we're always looking for good kind of conversations to help everybody else out. It's a complex business, and there's always something to be learned.
Amen.
Amen. All right. You guys have a great night. We'll catch you in the next one, and take care.
Thank you very kindly.